2026. These provisions are firm, constitutional, and will enforce without exception.
Tonight, we'll interrogate the implications of this directive of the party. Also, with barely 24 hours to the crucial NPP primaries, the candidates make last-minute appeal to their supporters amid allegations of massive vote buying.
I'm available to serve, and I hope the delegates will give me this wonderful opportunity. First of all, to serve the party, make the party attractive, ensure that we have a welfare package for delegates so that they can work hard.
We'll get the details in the bulletin shortly, but we have these and more coming up for you in the next 60 minutes. You'd want to stay with us here, also on all our social media platforms at FM 927. And before we get into the details of these stories, let's touch base with Noura Mohammed, so she updates us with some more happenings in other worlds. Noura, what do you have for us this evening?
Good evening. My name is Noura Mohammed. First in the summaries on Hot Edition, President John Dramani Mahama has urged African states at the Africa Trade Summit in Accra to swiftly implement economic reforms that directly promote development and enhance the security and welfare of their citizens. He argues that political freedom and democratic governance are meaningless without concerted efforts to change Africa's economies and provide the continent's citizens with sustainable means of livelihood. Also, the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare, has reaffirmed that Ghana's economic future depends on shifting from raw material exports to high-value manufacturing. Speaking at the launch of the Africa Trade Summit 2026 on Wednesday, January 28 in Accra, the minister declared that government's industrial agenda is now firmly anchored on value addition to ensure long-term productivity and global competitiveness. Meanwhile, former Minister for Youth and Sports and National Coordinator of the District's Road Improvement Program, Neelante Vanderpoy, has advised the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, to reconsider plans to seek a review of the Supreme Court's ruling on the Pandai parliamentary election, warning that such a move could prove costly and politically unproductive. Now, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, the New Patriotic Party's presidential aspirant, has pledged to allocate at least 10 national-level appointments to every constituency under a future NPP government led by him. The former vice president described the proposal as one constituency, 10 appointments, an initiative, he says, is aimed at strengthening party structures at a grassroots, deepening inclusion and governance, and ensuring that no part of the country is left out of national decision-making. Now, the Minister for Interior, Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak, has reiterated the government's commitment to sanitizing recruitment into the security services by eliminating middlemen, bribery, and other unethical practices that had undermined public confidence in the past. He said this after denying claims that he has taken over the recruitment exercise. The minister also said he's playing a supervisory role as part of his mandate over the agencies under the ministry. And that brings us to a close on the summaries on Hot Edition. Over to you.
Noura Mohammed, thank you so much for bringing us those details there. Let's get into the details of some of the stories this evening, starting from here. The National Democratic Congress is giving clear guidelines and warning to persons seeking to contest a party position who currently hold an office appointed by the president or government to resign at least 6 months before filing nomination forms. NDC General Secretary Fifi Fiavikwete announced this at a press conference today. Now, in a major shift from the party's present constitution, the NDC will soon make amendments to their constitution to bar MPs from serving in government. Now, here's a list of positions which would be affected by this latest directive. Number 1 is for ministers and deputy ministers. Number 2, we're looking at chief executive officers, and then under that we're seeing the managing directors and deputies as well as analogous officers. then metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives are also gravely affected by this. Well, the party has further given timelines for this directive to be effective or exit government. For constituencies, we're looking at April 2026. In the regional, we're looking at May 2026. And for national positions, June 2026. Here is Fifi Kwete addressing journalists at the party headquarters a while ago.
Now, National Executive Committee approved eligibility provisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, pursuant to Article 54 of the party's constitution, the National Executive Committee has approved the following general provisions under Section H of the guidelines for the elections. 1. Any person seeking to contest for a party position who currently holds an office to which he or she was appointed by the president or government must resign from that office at least 6 clear months before filing nomination forms. I think that again. Any person seeking to contest for a party position who currently holds an office to which he or she was appointed by the president or government must resign from that office at least 6 clear months before filing nomination forms. 2. Chairpersons or members of boards or persons in analogous positions are exempt from this restriction. Why? Because they are not full-time employees. Those who are full-time employees are affected, and the following are those who are affected. The affected officers under paragraph 1 include, they are not limited to: A. Ministers and deputy ministers. B. Chief executive officers, managing directors, their deputies or analogous officers. C. Metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives. So those are the 3 main categories that we mentioned. I take them again. The affected officers under paragraph 1 include, they are not limited to: A. Ministers and deputy ministers. B. Chief executive officers, managing directors, their deputies or analogous officers. C. Metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives. Now, the official guidelines for the elections will from today be made public. So all of you will be able to have access to them. Now, for the avoidance of doubt and for absolute clarity, those intending to contest at the constituency level who fall in the category I just mentioned, the 3 categories I mentioned, those intending to contest at the constituency level shall resign by April 2026. Those intending to contest at the regional level shall resign by May 2026. And those intending to contest at the national level shall resign by June 2026. These provisions are firm, constitutional, and will enforce without exception. So please don't even bother to come and see whether you can plead to be exempted, because there's no plea in this matter.
That's the voice of Fifi Kwete. Fifi Kwete is General Secretary of the NDC there. Let's have a conversation on the back of this. Professor Samuel Adujenthi is joining us on the phone. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. Prof is a senior lecturer at the Political Science Department at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He's joining us. Also, Mahdi Jibril, the Deputy Director of IT and Elections of the NDC, is on the line with us. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Let me start with you, Prof. What is your initial reaction to the NDC's directive requiring appointed government officials to resign 6 months before contesting for party positions?
I think that they are setting the stage for what lies ahead of them in terms of the internal party contests or elections to get the one who contests for them on the ticket. For the MP position in the constituency that has become necessary for them to contest for. But beyond that, I think that the party also owes itself and the members that duty of care to lay out some of these things they have put out. Fundamentally, what the constitution states within the party is what should be put out there. I think that fair and squarely he's been able to, Mr. Fifi Kwete, right, has been able to put out what is written in their constitution. I believe that the letter and the spirit of it would be to avoid any conflict or conflictual situation and to allow those who want to contest for any position who fall within such category to do same in time and not necessarily on time. And once you follow the due processes within your own internal political party contest, it inures to the benefit of the candidate himself or herself, and more so, it also consolidates the democratic credentials of the party. None of them, I mean, among others, should be able to set aside the party's framework, the party's constitution, which guides its activities and all that which are in line with it.
I see. Prof, please hold the line for me. Mahdi, thank you for staying. What is the NDC hoping to achieve with this directive?
The NDC want to achieve an effective party structure and party activity. Early this year, after the appointment of some of our colleagues, there was a discussion of for those who have taken appointment to resign their position as executive, so that we can fill the gaps. So as party ways will run. But at that meeting, because it is the same people who are also to approve it, it was rejected at the neck. So because we are now going into the new election, party decided that this one, let's put it, because the experience we have so far gone through in the last 1 year, it is inactive executives. Some constituencies, some regions, hardly beat because most of the executive officers have been appointed, and they are busy working for the government to succeed. So party felt it wise that let's have this clause so that we have a party system running, whilst the government also running effectively.
I see. Mahdi, thank you, but don't leave yet. Let me come back to you, Prof. Prof, from a democratic and governance perspective, do you see this move strengthening internal party democracy or potentially weakening executive-legislative cooperation? Hello, Prof, can you hear me? Professor Aduyefi, are you on the line, sir? Unfortunately, we...
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Prof. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. If you look at it from the macro level analysis, the status level analysis, if the people within the state decide to jettison the constitution of the state, it leads to anarchy. Respectfully, if you look at it at the micro level analysis, here at the party level, right, or institutional level analysis, if the framework, the constitution, the policy, which guides the institution, if they are set aside and people decide to do what they want to do, it creates a form of cacophony, it creates conflictual situations, and it does not augur well for the party. It does not allow it to leverage within its own internal constitutional arrangement. It makes the party ungovernable and chaotic. And so if the party is doing this today, then they are setting the record straight to allow for the party's policy or constitution or internal framework to serve as an undergirding for any superstructure they want to build their own. So I think it's the right way to go. Let actors, whether within the current context, learn from it. If there are breaches, there are ways for remedies. What the constitution of the party says should be adhered to into with no encumbrances. That's my view. Right.
And the party also plans to amend its constitution to bar members of parliament from serving in government. My question then will be, what problem is the NDC trying to address with this proposed amendment?
I mean, you're talking about the constitutional review arrangement to bar parliamentarians from being members of the executive. Is that a point?
That's the point, sir.
Yes. I the strictest sense, Baron de Montesquieu has taught us separation of power, the concept of absolute separation, where the legislature serves as a check on the executives, either in terms of direct governance structures or better still, in terms of serving as a check on finances ad hoc standing committees and all playing a role to make sure that the executive does not have a field day to do whatever it wants and even to become capricious in its ways. What we have seen historically in this country with the current constitution is that these parliamentarians have almost become subservient to the executive. How can you hit the head of the one in whose mouth your hand lies, the one who is feeding you? How can you dictate to or challenge his authority? If we want, if you like, a more fluid democracy, a more strong and robust democracy, we should begin to look at the strictest sense of separation, where even though you may be a member of the ruling party, if you are in parliament, you may have a reason to have dissent. But when you are waiting to have an appointment from the executive, you'll be a good boy or a good girl. And I think that that in itself does not reflect on the original motive of separation of powers. And from day one, when the Speaker Babel had his first Speaker's Breakfast Forum at Lancaster, Kumasi, I had the opportunity to speak as a discussant when my senior brother H. Prempe was the keynote speaker. The central argument I put out then, which I still stand by, is that what would make Ghana work and develop is to have a parliament that is not a rubber stamping one, which is able to live outside from the direct influence of the executive.
Right. And Prof, I'll come back to you. But Madi, I'm sure before this announcement was made, there were some discussions, some engagements here and there. What was the general reception of the affected people, members of parliament and government appointees, MMDCEs, CEOs and their deputies, the category of people affected? How did they react to this news before it was broadcasted?
Let me say the conclusion at the neck. And even though there was some engagement, there was some proposals for this point. Initially, those were an appointment level when they came to NEC, they fought against this position. But at that time, we wanted them to resign. But the argument then was that they were voted for 4 years. So if there's anything to happen, then we should wait until they finish their 4 years. But this time around, when we send the same proposal for the new election guidelines, the same next executive will now approve these guidelines. So I would say generally the party accepted this proposal. It should be a guide to the party. Having been in power before in 2016, 2012, the experience we went through with executive in power and the same executive also occupying party positions. The challenge we had, and going forward, we believe that if you have this separation of power, it will help the party to go forward.
And so, Prof, based on the response from Mahdi Jibril, do you anticipate any legal or constitutional challenges to this directive, either within the party or at the national level?
It's always a good case to test the Constitution and to allow for laws to even emanate from same when the law, as we know, lies in the bosom of the justices of the court. Once they have the opportunity to even comment on same, it helps us to be able to reflect on or to, if you like, have the opportunity to see the need to do so in terms of rallying our front around a more nuanced democracy which has independence of the judiciary, independence of the executive, and the independence of the legislature. So if the matters will be tested at the court, it allows the judiciary to also play its role as a check on both the legislature and the executive. The beauty of it is that it allows for constitutional democracy to be able to travel on the right trajectory. It is not about brawn, it's about the legal regime we have chosen to work with. And if anybody has a reason to want to test the legal regime, so be it. What is important is that we are building a state under a constitutionally democratic arrangement, right? The rule of law.
I see. Prof, I'll come back to you, but Mahdi, maybe let me pick your final thoughts on this. Based on the discussions that the party had with the affected members and the positions that they took, what do you also anticipate any legal or constitutional challenges to this directive, either within the party or at the national level?
This directive was guided by the same constitution somebody will quote when he goes to court. Because if you take the party constitution, Article 54, has given NEC that power to propose and enact a guideline that will govern the election that we are going to. After the election, when we vote for Congress, then we will add it into our constitution. So I'll be surprised to see any officer, member of party, who will go to court to test this to say, okay, the party wants the party to be stronger, the party structure to be stronger. Then you go to court to say, no, I want for myself, I want to hold two positions so that the party will not be effective. And you think that is why somebody will go to court as an NDC member. I'll be surprised. Or if any Ghanaian want to go to court and say, no, the NDC is proposing an amendment to their constitution or their guidelines to say because the party want to be effective, we want party executive to be party executive, government officials to be government officials. Then somebody go to court and say, no, I will not agree. They should allow people to hold one position. And I think that, yes, people can go to court to test court the laws, but I'll be surprised if any judge will rule for the same court for this.
Mahdi, I'd like to thank you. Thank you so much for your time. But finally, from me, Prof, and if you could, I'm putting two in one here. How does these new directives of the NDC, how do they compare with practices in other political parties in Ghana or similar democracies elsewhere? And what implications could these decisions have for party unity? Because ultimately, not everybody will be happy. And the NDC's electoral fortunes going into the next general elections or in their efforts to, elect party executives?
Yeah, I think just to stick with the NDC in the meantime, the fact that they have decided to go towards this tangent, I believe it is to allow them to build on the party structure and build on a kind of mechanism that would allow them to have, if you like, a smooth sailing front going forward. If it is something they have agreed upon to work with, then it is something they must continue to push and to ensure that individuals who have dissent can also challenge same and allow it to even become more robust when there is a need to have amendments here and there or strengthen aspects of the clauses that form part of the whole codification. But beyond saying, I think that the NPP and the other political parties have their own unique constitution, right, which they work with. I think, learning from what the NDC is doing, there is always a way to ensure separation of power. There is always a way to have people work for the party exclusively and be able to build the party, and others who go in to have opportunity to form government and not necessarily double as individuals who hold party position and also individuals who work in government. In the same vein, if you have a state that has strict separation in the levels of the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, it allows for smooth sailing processes and all that. What is good about having system is that you are, in a way, creating a proper division of labor. You don't have unnecessary overlaps, and you allow for the system to gel and for individuals to give their energies and expertise to specific areas to allow for the entire system to gel. Where individuals try to lump positions together and functions together, they end up creating a certain challenge because of the lack of clarity in terms of distinction. And such duplicity can also create future problems, either at the status level of governance or even at the party level. Right.
Prof, I'm grateful for your time. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Professor Samuel Adujemfi is a political historian, a political analyst, and a senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, speaking with us there. We'll still stay with the NDC because the National Democratic Congress is gearing up for its parliamentary primaries in the Ayawaso East constituency, with 5 aspirants successfully vetted ahead of the February 7 contest. My colleague, Nura Mohammed, she brings us reactions from the constituency as constituents and voters prepare to go to the polls.
Here at Nima in the Ayawaso East constituency, with Nima in the contestants, including the late MP's wife, Hajia Amina Adam, as well as the Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Baba Jamal, and also, interestingly, the constituency's chairman, and some 2 others. The competition seems very tight. And so we're here to engage some constituents and some delegates to see who they're rooting for and why they choose that particular person to represent the NDC in the by-election.
I'm not going to vote because since I started voting, I'm voting for NASA. Since I started voting, but I never see nothing.
I'm with Hajia Amina, the late MP's wife. Yes. I'm with her because I wanted to come and continue the good work that the husband has left behind. And so far, the husband has done well in this constituency. He has done most of the work. And I think he has left about 13 projects that he needs to complete. And then God called him. So we wanted to come and continue those projects. We know her capabilities. The time for women relegation has passed. So this time, it's women supporting women.
As for me, I'm rooting for Honorable Baba Jamal.
Okay.
And my reasons are that, considering the political antecedent of this, our constituency, is the only person who has been able to change the face of the politics in East Ayawaso here. Because he contested the last election and lost to the late MP. But even though he lost the election, he didn't leave the constituency. In fact, he was the face of the camp. For the first time in the history of this constituency, we saw youth. Motors were distributed to our youth to work for the party, and after that, he has instituted a loan scheme. The MP wasn't working. If the MP was working and you tell me it's the wife that was behind him, that one fine. But the man is not doing anything.
Oh, why are you want to be breast? I know kuna jumana and we and tia the more beer. A jumana bebasa. Dano kura and kunuka baby kura. Na no mana yadi jumano. Nebi on my young way. A children almost a son or manu. A children almost a son or manu go. Inside the one. Tinaza de why are the pant? Mamma kura when no muna juma. Nukunusuya. When my juma nukunukura no panukura. On the baby, say, Obuka baby, and I say, Aura, and I say, baby cry, one a friend, no, I call baby.
The one I am in for is Baba Jamal. Because formerly, when he with the late McNaza stood, they contested each other. McNaza won election, and then Baba Jamal came second. You understand? So, due to that, all of us, the youth here around, we prefer Baba Jamal. He contested in Akwetia. Yeah, we all know that. But due to his eloquence, the way he speaks, the way he organizes himself, that's why we, the youth here, we like him very much.
With the Ayawaso East constituency primaries just around the corner, which is on February 7, out of all the constituents that we've spoken to, the competition seems to be between the late MP's wife, Hajia Amina Adam, as well as Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Baba Jamal.
And that was my colleague Nura Mohammed in the Ayawaso East constituency there. It's now a good time to flip the coin and now talk about the NPP, because it's barely 24 hours to the NPP presidential primaries and the party is mopping up activities, campaigns and others. The contest for the flag bearer position will see candidate Japan Former Vice President Dr. Baumia, Engineer Kwabneji Japan, Dr. Yawase Aduchum, and then Dr. Brian Champon vie for the flag bearer positions. The event is expected to attract party executives, delegates, and members from across the country, and it signals a key moment in the party's roadmap to the next polls. The ceremony will mark the conclusion of the NPP's internal electoral process and formally launch the party's campaign preparations ahead of the 2028 general elections. Well, ahead of the primaries, the former Education Minister, Dr. Yawase Aduchum, he has been speaking, promising livable wages and unifying the party when elected.
Nation will be left behind. That is why I come to this with a greater sense of urgency. A 24th century president must have some attributes. An attribute where you really know what it takes to transform a country. We've looked at the case of Singapore. Transformation through industrialization with a strong STEM-based education regime. Singapore did it. China, under Deng Xiaoping, decided to embark on transformation. After visiting Japan, he came back to China. They began to transform education. They began to introduce STEM education. They set a goal to produce 50,000 engineers a year. Then move on to 200,000, 800,000. Now we know what has happened in China. The rest is what we call history. India is moving. India says by 2047, they will be a developed nation. Our nation, Ghana, I am here. I'm available to serve. And I hope the delegates will give me this wonderful opportunity. First of all, to serve the party, make the party attractive, ensure that we have a welfare package for delegates so that they can work hard when we are in government or out of government. This is what I seek to do, to make sure that after you work so hard, party can also, the government, through the president, through the party, back to the party, will be able to support you. So I'm here to serve you, delegates.
Dr. Yawase Aduchum there, who is delegate in the Ashanti region. Well, he is in the race with Dr. Brian Champon, Kennedy Japan, as well as Engineer Kwabne Japan. There's also Dr. Brian Champon, like we've mentioned, and then Dr. Baumia is also in the contest with him. Well, the others, including Kennedy Japan, Brian Champon, and the party leadership, they have scheduled a national address between 6 and 9 p.m. tonight. So, between 6 and 9 p.m., Dr. Brian Champon and then Kennedy Japan, as well as the party leadership, they have scheduled national addresses tonight. While at it, Election Watch Ghana and Election Observer Group is warning against what it describes as possible unprecedented vote buying ahead of the NPP presidential primaries. The Election Observer Group says the situation, if left unchecked, may gravely affect the integrity of the country's democratic process, which is under serious threat. Let's take a look at the statement from Election Watch Ghana. And this is what they say, that their findings show that serious candidates are allocating substantial resources, reportedly between 150 to 200 million cedis cash, to influence delegates and their decisions through lavish offers, including hotel accommodations, transportation, feeding, and per diems. He continues to say that, and we'll continue with a statement from Election Watch Ghana, and he says that such practices not only compromise the fairness of the election, but also jeopardize the unity and stability of their party. And they're talking about the NPP and then the nation as a whole. They are urging the Electoral Commission to take immediate action to address these irregularities and ensure a level playing field for candidates. And Election Watch is encouraging citizens to report. Election Watch is encouraging citizens to report all instances of vote buying to the EC's toll-free number. And that number you're seeing on your screen, if you've joined us on Facebook right now, is 0800 0800. We're looking at 324 324 0800 324 324. These are the numbers that the Election Watch Ghana, the group, is urging citizens to report on. They add that the EC must uphold the highest standards of professionalism and then impartiality, including ensuring that its officials are not compromised by accepting gifts or favors from candidates. And they call on all stakeholders to prioritize the integrity of our electoral process and work towards a free, fair, and transparent election. These are excerpts of the statement from Election Watch Ghana. Let's take a listen to Jude Balmer. Jude Balmer is a convener of Election Watch Ghana.
This trend became a norm, and it forced us to issue this statement today because Election Watch is actually on a 13-day committee engagement prior to the NPP 31st January elections, engaging the NPP delegates and stakeholders at large. And when you go around and you speak to these people, most of the issues they raise is vote buying. And they don't talk about vote buying with joy, but they talk about the vote buying with despair because their candidates are not having the model to pay as much as what others are paying. That's why they are seeing this as a bad trend and something that needs to be tackled ASAP. Because at the end of the day, they are promising that there will be a candidate that will lead a party that will not be the people's choice, but actually a seat that will be bought by the highest bidder. So the delegates are worried. So what we did as a CSO, the Electoral Commission is having a toll-free number. We try as much as possible to give the toll-free number to the delegates themselves who are beneficiaries or who are those getting this office to make the direct complaint to the Electoral Commission. Now, we believe that the structures of the NPP is as solid as any other structure. They should be in touch with the grassroots. The CSO shouldn't be the one going around to get this information for them. If they are in touch with the grassroots, they will know what they are talking about, that the seat is being bought by the highest bidder and they are not happy about it. We are also hoping that those who are calling the Electoral Commissioner, the Electoral Commissioner will not just take this calls and just go to sleep, but will work on it from today to the day of the event, because we know a lot can be done from today to the day of the event. If they want to push further, these delegates are ready to come up with the names because they are saying they are coordinators who are checking their numbers, their details, and asking them whether they want to sleep over the Friday and vote on Saturday or they want to return, and those who want to even sleep over after the elections so that they book hotels for them, they get them transportation, and get them a per diem. One of the delegates we spoke with is saying that as we speak right now, he has 3 rooms that have been booked for him. And he was happy for getting the 3 rooms, but at the end of the day, they were not appreciating it, that our democracy is now at the market and being sold out to the highest bidder.
Jude Balmer is a convener of Election Watch Ghana. In the meantime, an elder of the NPP and the former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, he says the party has zero tolerance for vote buying and will not hesitate to sanction anyone found culpable.
You know, I've spoken on various fora against vote buying and the principle of the monocracy generally. But these are secret events. Everywhere. In the national election, votes were bought, we are told.
So possibly the elections may not be
any
fair
matter
and fair.
about vote buying, I personally condemn it because these things don't help to promote democracy. But it's not peculiar to this particular Congress in any way at all. And I am really working on the positivities, particularly on the recommendations that I chaired some 2 years ago, having studied the difficulties that we're having in our elections generally in this country, and in fact helped to introduce the principle of the IPAC, bringing the IPAC national to the IPAC in the party. We called it, therefore, intra-party advisory committee, so that at every given stage, the candidates had representatives at the committee, and then they helped to decide on every matter, including things like proxy. We will continue to hear them, whether it's party A or party B. And I'm very glad, for example, about some of the recommendations that Professor Prempe has made with regard to electoral elections in Ghana and monocracy. I've written on this. I've brought out mechanisms on this. We have to work it all as a nation. Our national election last time, if you heard some of the things that people did with regard to money, it's not the best.
The voice of Professor Aaron Michael Quay. Professor Aaron Michael Quay is a former Speaker of Parliament there reacting to concerns of vote buying ahead of the NPP's primaries. We'll be having a conversation on the back of this because we'll be speaking with a political scientist, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. He will join us to provide some insight because it's barely 24 hours to go. What will be his thoughts on the NPP's conduct so far? And then vote buying has reared its head again. What do we do? Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Good evening to you. My last question, well, and I'll start with it, is that concerns of vote buying has reared its head again. What do we do? What does the party do?
Well, Crosby, let me say good evening to you and to your listeners. The unfortunate thing is that those at the helm of affairs of the party have their own interests. And that's the more reason why they've not been able to crack the whip from a sincere, from a fair, transparent, and unbiased perspective. And so, like, what happens if a particular member of the party speaks, then you see that people are hurriedly trying to sanction that person. When another person speaks otherwise, then you see that the party is quiet. So if that is the case, it is going to be difficult, exacting the kind of sanctions that can be used against these vote buying processes. And so it is equally as difficult as what happens in our daily system, where people, corrupt the processes, the system, and once it is done in secrecy, it becomes a little much of a difficulty trying to find out who is doing what and the kind of sanctions that can be exacted against these people.
And Doc, finally, with barely 24 hours to this all-important election, what can change?
Well, you see, architecturally, I don't see anything changing because the organogram or the architecture that has been put in place, favors that about me because we are looking at an election that is from the top to the bottom. Now, this top to the bottom approach, this was the architecture that was in place when Dr. Bawumia was elected. The only thing that has been done is some amendments that have led to some inclusion or some inclusion of certain, demographies. Now, if you look at those demographies that have been included, mostly, if not all, side with the establishment. So if that is the case, I don't see anything new happening. Now the other thing probably that could bring something new is the fact that the grassroots that resonate well with Mr. Kennedy Japan, if they want to put their mouth where their money is, then that will be the source of the surprise. But if there's going to be any surprise, then that will be a situation where there's going to be a tie or we do not have an absolute winner, and probably they may have to go for a runoff. If that happens, Dr. Bawumia will lose.
Doc, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
You're welcome.
Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere is a political analyst we engaged with there. Meanwhile, the Eastern South Police Command has warned individuals and groups planning to disrupt the opposition, the NPP's primaries, to abandon the idea of phase its force. The Eastern South Deputy Police Commander, DCOP Phyllis Osei, declared the command's readiness to ensure a peaceful exercise during a show of force at Chibi.
We have the three-tier approach. So we have placed men in the inside perimeter. Then we have the middle and then the outer. So before you can penetrate through to the inner, then it means that a lot of things may have gone wrong. And so it will be very, very difficult unless the person may be using a drone to drop a human being onto the ballot box. No macho man is expected to be there. Please, if you're a macho man and you have been given any assignment, please don't try it. So without accreditation, nobody will be permitted to enter polling station. Our men are ready. With assurance, I can tell you that we are ready. And please, if your intention is to come and cause trouble, be rest assured that we are going to deal with you. We will not countenance any trouble in the region. We want peace before, during, and even after the election. That's our mandate, and we are going to go strictly to our mandate.
The voice of DCOP Felix Osei. She is the Eastern South Deputy Police Commander speaking with us there. Let's do some other stories tonight, because an average of 44 lives are lost every day due to terrorist attacks in West Africa, with about 8 attacks recorded each day within the sub-region. This was revealed by Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who noted that the sub-region has become the global hub for terrorism activities. The minister revealed this grim picture at the high-level consultative conference on regional cooperation and security in Accra, attended by security chiefs from member states within the region, including Burkina Faso, Guinea, Nigeria, Mali, amongst others. The two-day conference is aimed at preempting and strategically confronting the threat of terror within the region.
The challenges we face are not confined to a single nation. Extremism in the Sahel, piracy in the Gulf of Guinea, trafficking across porous borders, and the silent erosion of resilience in our communities are threats that transcend national borders. They remind us that no state can stand alone. Our strength lies in unity, in pooling our wisdom, and in the courage to act together. It is totally unacceptable that we do not have an agreed regional vehicle to address this trans-border challenge. And that is why we have convened this meeting as leaders determined to find a lasting solution to this threat. We meet at a time when the sub-region faces deep structural pressures: violent extremism, terrorism, instability, climate stress, food insecurity, and youth unemployment converge, creating vulnerabilities that extremists and criminal groups exploit. Intelligence, therefore, cannot be confined to kinetic threats alone. It must encompass the broader picture, the economic corridors that sustain trade, the border communities whose livelihoods depend on cross-border movement, and the social fabric that binds our societies. Our deliberations today must be multidimensional. They must integrate economic realities, social pressures, and governance weaknesses into the threat we face. They must anticipate not only the movement of armed groups, but also the silent erosion of resilience in communities where opportunities are scarce. Intelligence becomes not only a security tool, but a compass for socio-economic development.
The voice of Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who is Foreign Affairs Minister here in Ghana. This is still Hot Edition, live on all our social media platforms at 3FM 927, also on your radio at 3FM 927. In a moment, we'll do some business news. In business tonight, the Ghana Union of Traders Association has strongly condemned government's decision to enforce a mandatory police policy on insurance coverage for all imported cargo, describing the move as a unilateral directive issued without sufficient stakeholder consultation. Public Relations Officer of gov't, Joseph Paddy, expressed deep concern over the policy, which is set to take effect on February 1.
gov't argued that the National Insurance Commission, NIC, and the Ministry of Finance are unfairly penalizing businesses by forcing them to use local insurers who may lack the global track record or financial capacity to handle high-value international risks.
One of our challenges as a business committee is that some of the product that we get from our partners abroad is given to us on credit. And because we don't have much interest in it, almost about 90% interest is from our suppliers, and therefore they want to ensure to make sure of their safety and security. So if you are now asking us to pay the insurance here, what do we tell our suppliers abroad. Insurance must not be mandatory on the business community. It should be a choice by the importer or the exporter, and who he wants to insure with and where he wants to insure his products.
Public Relations Officer of GUTA, Joseph Paddy, is worried about perceived double standards of the insurance industry.
One of the things we've seen with these insurance companies is that when we're asking them to come and insure our shops in the market spaces, they tell us the high-risk area, they don't want to come in there. But the same insurance company want to insure our goods that is coming from abroad by sea. And we know when we talk of transport security, one of the safest transport security is by sea.
And that was a report by my colleague Evelyn Tengma there. Before we go and make way for sport, GUTA has welcomed the latest cut in the policy rate, praising the central bank governor for suggesting his ambition of achieving a single-digit rate before the end of his tenure may be within reach. The Bank of Ghana announced a reduction in the policy rate from 18% to 15%, a move that has been well received by the business community.
At 15%, the rate is now at its lowest level in 4 years, surprising many economists who had expected a more cautious approach. Since July last year, the central bank has lowered its main lending rate by a cumulative 12.5 percentage points, citing improved macroeconomic conditions. Governor Johnson Esiama said the Monetary Policy Committee's majority decision reflected confidence in Ghana's economic outlook, with inflation remaining under control. Speaking to 3 Business, GUTA President Clement Boateng described the announcement as welcome news for traders and businesses across the country.
Before the committee meeting, and I even told the person that I don't expect any increments, but rather I even still want them to maintain it or even decrease it. And right to my words, they decrease it by 250 basis, and I think it's a welcome news. So what we want the BOG to do as a regulatory body is also to impress upon the commercial banks to also try and reduce their lending rate.
The governor had earlier indicated his intention to bring the policy rate down to single digits before leaving office. Mr. Boateng believes that target may be achieved sooner than expected.
Things are going. I'm sure that before he exited, we'll be able, to achieve that goal. And if we are able to do that, then on businesses, for them to be able to, borrow at a very moderate, lending rate, and then be able to expand their.
Well, that's it for the business segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Sports is up next with Oriku Ampofo. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oriku Ampofo. Let's start off with some news from the continent, where the Confederation of African Football has imposed several sanctions on both Senegal and Morocco federations, while confirming the suspension of head coach Pape Thiaw for the next 5 matches. There's more details in the following report.
The decisions were taken following the incidents that ensued during the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations final in Morocco. The final, played in Rabat, was interrupted for over 15 minutes as Senegal attempted to abandon the pitch following Congolese referee Jean Indala Ngambo awarding a late penalty for Morocco. CAF have finally acted to the incident by suspending Coach Thiaw, who was seen instructing Senegal players to return to the locker room after a penalty was awarded. Thiaw will now serve his suspension during the upcoming qualifiers for the next Africa Cup of Nations, but will be available to coach the Lions of Teranga at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. CAF further sanctioned Senegal players Iliman Ndiaye and Ismail Assar for 2 CAF matches for unsporting behavior towards the referee. The African football body has imposed Senegal FA with a fine of $300,000 for the improper conduct of its supporters. The Senegalese FA was also fined $300,000 for the unsporting conduct of their players and technical staff. Morocco defender Ashraf Hakimi will serve a 2-match suspension, with one of these matches being suspended for 1 year from the date of this decision for his unsporting behavior. Another Moroccan player affected by CAF's decision is Ismail Saibari, who will serve 3-match suspension for his unsporting behavior and was further fined $100,000. The Moroccan Federation was fined $200,000 for the inappropriate behavior of their stadium's ball boys during the aforementioned match, and $100,000 for the improper conduct of their national team players and technical staff who invaded the VAR review area and obstructed the referee's work. In conclusion, the CAF disciplinary board rejected the protest lodged by the Moroccan Federation to strip Senegal of the AFCON title. By dismissing this petition, CAF officially reaffirmed Senegal as the 2025 AFCON champions.
Let's do some more here, where we head to the domestic front, where 2-time Ghana Premier League champions Aduana Stars, they have taken a significant step towards strengthening the international profile with the appointment of former Black Stars midfielder Emmanuel Agyemang-Badu as the club's international relations manager. The appointment was officially confirmed on January 28, 2026, with the 2009 Under-20 World Cup winner also taking up the additional role of Pathways and External Relations Officer. Agyemang-Badu brings a wealth of experience to the role, having enjoyed an illustrious playing career that spanned across Ghana and Europe, as well as years of service with the national team. Aduana Stars are currently 3rd on the league log in the Ghana Premier League. Now, before we go, Ghana midfielder Majid Ashmeru is set to join Raul Latlouvière on a 6-month loan from Anderlecht to gain play time. The 28-year-old has signed his contract and is completing his final formalities as the medical is set to take place on Friday. Ashmeru hasn't featured for Angeles' first team this season after recovering from a muscle injury, making just 4 appearances for the under-23 side. With limited opportunities, he chose Raul over other offers from Denmark, Turkey, and other European clubs due to the familiarity and proximity to the family. Anderlecht will pay his full salary during the loan. At Raul, who sits 13th in the Jupiter Pro League, he's expected to play a key role in their relegation battle and link up with fellow Ghanaian international Jerry Afriyie. Regular minutes are crucial for Ashmeru as he looks to regain form and stay in contention for Ghana's Black Stars ahead of the 2026 World Cup. That's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition on TFM 92.7. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and you can get some more sports updates on our social media handles at 3SportsGH. And this is how we also bring to an end Hot Edition here on TFM 92.7. You can also join us again on Friday for more news on the continent, the globe, and Ghana as well.